Hello, this is Brian Scuttle of Sonic Cinema, and I finally caught up with Baz Luhrmann's biopic Elvis today. Uh, I missed it when it was in theaters. I just didn't really have time to watch a 2.5 hour movie in theaters. I have no doubt it would have been a tremendous visual experience in the theater, though. I find myself having a lot of conflicting emotions about it because of the fact that there's a certain degree where I kind of feel like at the beginning where it's almost at its most Baz Luhrmann esque. I feel like it maybe is too chaotic, but there are moments that I think are really great, like the moments where Elvis has his realization of his love of gospel music and rhythm and blues, and that what musical inspiration leads to that. I think a lot of the early performances, like when we see him gyrating for the first time and the ways that impacts on the audience, I think that is really interesting to see unfold. And I think there are some good things in this. I think Austin Butler is quite good in his performance as Elvis. I don't know that I would say it's quite the transformative performance that a lot of people think. I certainly think it's better than Rami Malek in Bohemian Rhapsody, but I just don't know how I feel about it overall. As Colonel Tom Parker, I one of the things that I'm interested in Tom Hanks is when he makes really big swings in choices. And in terms of performance, I'm thinking in particular about some of his work in Cloud Atlas, but also in The Lady Killers, the Coen Brothers movie. And I think that is really quite an interesting example of his talent and him using his talent to kind of get him using his natural charisma to create a character that is just completely out of sync with the rest of society. And I think that's something that he's trying to do with Colonel Parker in this movie. I'm not sure that I would say it's overly successful, but I think it's an interesting choice, and I think for what Baz Luhrmann is going for here, I think it's a good choice. I certainly think Austin Butler's the better of the two, but honestly, I think one of the performances I was really more impressed by was Olivia DeJonge as Priscilla. I think she makes the most of her moments in the movie when they meet and afterwards. And I think especially as their relationship kind of implodes, she has some really tremendous serious work. And I think Austin Butler has some good scenes too. It's funny because of the fact that I kind of have an issue with Luhrmann's style overall. I'm not really a huge fan of his maximalist style and the way he just goes balls out when it comes to visual style. But I think there are times, especially in the beginning of the movie, that works. And I think there are times later on in the movie that works, especially when he's transitioning from moments to moments, especially when the International Hotel in Las Vegas becomes part of the story. I think there are some moments where it works. Overall, though, I feel like the story is really basic and not overly interesting. I almost wonder if something. I almost wonder if an approach sort of along the lines of what Todd Haynes did in I'm Not Here will have been more interesting for an Elvis biopic. I think what we have here is is somebody who very much is interested in telling Elvis's story, but I think he's not entirely interested in dealing with some of the serious questions with regards to the relationship with Priscilla, how young she was, as well as the appropriation of music that Elvis showed. I definitely feel like there's an appreciation to Elvis in this movie as far as what he did with that music, but at the same time, I think it's a tough movie to it's a tough nut to crack, and I think it's overall it's a good movie. I think it's definitely something that Luhrmann was a good choice for as a director, but I'm not sure if necessarily the screenplay worked on with Sam Bromell and Craig Pierce was necessarily the way to go. So those are my thoughts on Elvis. I'm glad I finally got a chance to see it. So I have, as I go through movies, catching up with movies from the past year, it was good to finally see it. And, this might be one I want to revisit again before the Oscars because of the fact that it still having a hard time chewing over it. So those are my thoughts on Elvis. Thank you very much for listening. This is Brian Scuttle, and until next time.